G'day everybody. There are a number of connections between the Incas and the Egyptians, and I'm just going to show you a few pictures I found online and then a scenario for what the connections could be. And if we look here, this is... okay, for starters, let's go with what we know. This is an Egyptian pyramid. This is one of the so-called the Three Queens pyramids from either the Pyramid of Menkaure or the Pyramid of Khufu, and we see that they were interested in making step pyramids. We know the Inca pre-Inca were interested in this as well, although these are more like platforms, temples. These don't have staircases. The Gingers, and these seem to have been redheads, these people, or redheads travelled around the world, and there are redhead mummies from both Egypt and from Inca times. Someone's highlighted the knobs on these stones on the Menkaure pyramid. This looks just like what you get in the Inca world in Peru. It's as if pre-Peruvians arrived here and they decided to cover this pyramid in stones, and they're even pink, just like you see a lot of pink granite in Peru, which is quite extraordinary. It's the staff god. There's a story behind this. This is also in ancient Britain, in southern England, carved into a hillside. This is also found on the Gate of the Sun, Tiwanaku. And what this really is an ancient myth that people don't talk about. It's Hercules. Hercules, child of the sun. The gods tried to kill him. They inserted two snakes into his crib. And what Hercules did is he strangled them. So this is Hercules strangling the snakes. And this myth would have been worldwide. Now, I'll talk about that a bit later. Inca, pre-Inca, whatever it is. Look at the angle. The angles on these things. You see what's going on here? I think these are both made of mud or sandstone. This is the so-called earthquake angle that the Incas were very interested in. They built on this angle. It basically means there can be some movement, and the stress is absorbed by the bottom of the building. So why would you need to protect against earthquakes in Egypt? So it would seem that Egyptians are a mountain race back in the day, a mountain people. And they came to Egypt and they still built buildings which are in a way earthquake proof, although I'm not sure about these bricks, that the bricks might be a bit too big for that, a bit too small, sorry. So what's going on? Another thing showing that the Egyptians were mountain people. The pyramids, they seem to be artificial mountains. They're replicas of mountains because they didn't have any, so they thought, okay, we'll build some. Why not? We can do that. And this is actually... guess where this is? Guess. It's actually Egypt. And there's a bit of a smoking gun here. This is the Khafre Valley Temple. Do you see this stone here? This is incredible. This is the same color as many of the Peruvian stones. So it's as if they started building this and they said, hey, let's make it in the colors we use back at home. Let's do that. And they said, okay. And they made it in this color. And then they said, hang on a second. This color's pretty rare. Let's go with what we have. And they switched to this color. Again, the pink granite, that's what you get in Peru. They were interested in making the side of the Menkaure pyramid pink. They look like some old casing stones. There we go. That speaks for itself. That's inside the Valley Temple of Khafre. I'll show you a photo of that. That's the Valley Temple of Khafre. And by the way, these builders, 4th dynasty, 2600 BC, oh, this could be way older, the same builders as Baalbek, because this whole area was essentially next to Heliopolis, city of the sun, and Heliopolis is the old name of Baalbek. Before Roman times, it was Heliopolis. Well, that speaks for itself. Look at that, blue eyes. Possibly gingers. And that's that photo I showed you earlier. This is the Temple of Khafre. And there's something going on here. They, you know, sort of earthquake-proof stuff again, except I don't know if there are any earthquakes in Egypt or not. I haven't heard of it as being an earthquake country. But clearly they wanted this to last a long time, and it has. And this is... I think there's a link. Either the redheads were going across the Pacific, or they were going across the Atlantic, in which case they would have encountered England, UK, which seems to be possibly Atlantis, or seems to have been remembered as Atlantis, although Atlantis is a legend. This is the reality. This is a step pyramid. Mysteries of the White Hill. It's, you know, they built it white out of chalk. It's carved chalk inside in Silbury Hill, just like the white walls of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, just like Newgrange, white walls. And that was covered over soon after it was completed. Perhaps they wanted to make another layer, and that's how they build pyramids basically in Mexico, layer upon layer upon layer down the generations. Yet Egyptian archaeologists say the Egyptian pyramids were built all at once, and I don't believe that. I've actually proven in an earlier video that the pyramids may have been worked for 10,000 years. The interior carbon dates are older. And just look at that. You see, that's Inca work in Egypt. What are they doing in Egypt? This is bizarre. This is crazy. We have a number of scenarios for what happened. There could have been trade. There could have been trade across the Atlantic. And this is 8000 BC, basically. Atlantis of the East, Indonesia, Sundaland. There was some kind of land bridge here between Papua New Guinea. The Aborigines of Tasmania look the same as the Papua New Guineas in the old days. There's something else going on here. The Black Sea civilization. This used to be a freshwater lake. This whole area has changed. They say the Minoans or Atlantis, and there was a bit more land around there. You look at the Aegean, right in the middle of the Aegean, all those islands. That was a land. That was another island. Also the Adriatic, the Etrurian Sea, the Tyrians, they're one of the sea peoples, and their land sank. The Sardinians, their land sank. Same as this part of Africa, same as this part of Sicily. But if we really want to look at the island in the Atlantic beyond the Pillars of Hercules, well, you know, you tell me. You tell me which is the big one that lost all its land. That's where the land was in 8000 BC. And it was already warm by this time, after the Ice Age. So you tell me what's going on. They could have been... The Peruvians could have been in control of the trade of this area. Lake Superior copper mines, exporting copper, 300,000 tons or more, via Britain. And this percolated to Egypt. They visited Egypt, they exchanged their culture, they exchanged their technicians. And in the ancient descriptions, just ignore this Atlantis here, but in the ancient descriptions, Atlantis is the way via other islands to the opposite continent. And of course Greenland was a lot warmer than today. That's proven. It was about 3 degrees warmer at least, and there would have been cities there as well. The Peruvians controlling this, exporting their copper from here. They had explored the whole continent to the old world. And this is why Plato, Solon, they say in those days the Atlantic was navigable, because people navigated. That's one scenario to explain the similarities. Or there was a former worldwide sophisticated civilization. There was a catastrophe in 3300 BC. History ended, or before that time. I'm talking about this civilization having existed in, say, 5000 BC. And they continued the same building technologies in the countries they settled, even though they forgot about each other's memory. And this is the weird thing. Archaeologists say history began in Egypt in 3100 BC, and that's when culture therefore originated. Wrong. There was a dark age before that time, and there was something before that. You don't originate during a dark age. You originate during a boom time. The Dark Age interrupted the previous history. Same here, the 1200 BC Dark Age. They say there is no Peruvian history before 1200 BC, but that was a Dark Age all around the world. That's when the Atlantic copper trade was interrupted. That's when Troy fell. That's when Egypt fell to the Sea Peoples. That's when the Hittites fell. Everyone fell because everyone was moving around, taking over each other's countries due to climate change. Thank you very much.